So today I'm here with Dr. Naama Lahav from Incredo, and really looking forward to the discussion. Naama, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Daniel?
I'm great. Hope you're having a good summer and that things are going well with the business. So listen, and we've known each other a while. I think we first came in contact with you when you were at Talk, right?
Yes.
A couple of years ago. And I'm super interested to learn more about your product and what the company's doing. But maybe I know I would have introduced you, briefly before the start of the session. But if you could just maybe give us a little bit of background on who you are, what the company does, how it got started, and all those types of interesting things that the people may not know.
Sure. So I've been at now Incredo. We changed our name just a few months ago from Dartmouth to Incredo. I've been here for 5 years. And I'm a chemist. I have a PhD from the Weizmann Institute in Israel. And I got here right after my PhD. I'm a team leader in R&D and also the product manager for Incredo. And what we do, we have Incredo Sugar, which is a solution for sugar reduction that's based on sugar. So it's the only solution that's based on sugar. And we're able to reduce up to 50% sugar while still maintaining the same sweetness profile, taste, texture, everything around that. And the reason we can do that is that because it is based on sugar, so there's no aftertaste. You're really getting just the taste of sugar, no aftertaste that we do see in other sweeteners. And, people want their indulgence and they want to have their chocolate and have it taste the same way. And on the other hand, they want to be healthy and they want to consume less sugar. So our product, Incredo Sugar, is a great solution for that.
Great. And we're definitely going to dig more into that, how it works and what it is. Maybe you could just give a little bit of a history on how the company got started, where you're based, sort of like how you got to be where you are today as a company.
Yes. So we're based in Israel, and the company was founded in 2014 by Professor Avraham Baniel at the age of 96. And his son, Iran Baniel. And Iran was the CEO until 2 years ago. It's based on the idea that Professor Avraham Baniel, he's one of the really founders of industrial chemistry in Israel. And he had an idea many years ago about enhancing the taste of sugar. There was a lack of sugar in Israel. This was, I think, in the 50s. And they wanted to get more sweetness with less sugar. Mm-hmm. And at the age of 96, he kind of remembered that idea and started playing in his kitchen. He almost burned it down. And kind of called his son, Iran, and told him about the idea. And that's how Dartmouth started.
Wow. And is he still around?
No, he passed away last year at the age of 102.
Wow. Yeah,
but he nice. Really got to see, the company forming and becoming commercial and really see his ideas come to life.
It's amazing. It's an amazing story. Yeah, I love all these stories about how innovation is driven by necessity and need. I think it's probably the best type. Well, great. So thanks for that background. And I know I visited you there. I'm not sure if you've moved offices, but it's a big team. It's a nice place. And yeah, I definitely keep encouraging people to go to Israel to check it out. I think that now that it's moving even more now. And then you're definitely a company that has highlighted that ecosystem. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about the technology. So you say it creates the same sweetness, reduced effect of sugar, but it's based on sugar. Can you talk a little bit about, maybe in layman's terms, how it works and, what you do to sugar or how you do the process that makes it, have all the qualities that it has, but still with sweetness? Of course, don't disclose anything that's proprietary, but I think it's kind of, everyone knows what sugar is, right? I mean, I think it looks similar around the world, whether or not it's cane or sugar or other sources. But maybe you could talk a little bit about where you get the inputs and then how that works in order to create the product.
Sure.
Yeah.
So our technology is really pretty simple. We change the structure of the sugar crystal. We use sucrose, and we change the structure using a mineral carrier, and we dry it together. And this kind of disrupts the crystal structure. And what this causes is that the sugar crystal just dissolves faster.
Mhm.
And so if you're taking now a bite of a cookie, just any cookie, not a lot of people know this, but for our first 4 or 5 seconds that we're chewing, maybe 20% of the sugar in the cookie actually reaches our taste buds. The rest, we're just swallowing it. It has no effect in how much sweetness we're perceiving.
Mhm.
So what we're doing with Incredo Sugar is that in those 4 or 5 seconds where you're chewing, more sugar is dissolving into your saliva and reaching the taste buds. So we're just increasing the concentration of sugar on your tongue by actually using less sugar. So our sugar dissolves faster, it's more effective in reaching your taste buds.
Mhm.
And the whole composition of the sugar and the carrier is based on just hydrogen bonds. So there's no covalent bonds, it's not attached together, and it dissolves in water. So it breaks down in water or our saliva to sugar and the carrier, which is silica. And you get, just regular sugar arrives to your taste buds.
And
So
is there any like metabolic impact that happens when that happens quicker? Is it the same as eating regular sugar to the body?
The metabolic effect is the same. It's still sugar, so it's not any new molecule. It's not processed differently in our bodies, which is good because also from our side, there's no, we do have a self-affirmed GRAS and we applied for an FDA GRAS, but there's no new molecule here. So once it dissolves in our mouths, it just acts like regular sugar. So we have 2 ingredients here, sugar and silica, both are approved for food all over the world. And we're just connecting them together, but in a way that's reversible.
Okay.
So,
sorry, when you say reversible, what does it mean reversible?
So as I said, in water, they just dissolve and then you get the sugar molecules and the silica.
Okay.
And then like the glycemic index, everything is the same, but you do have less sugar. You're consuming less sugar and the effect is coming from there.
Meaning that when I eat my favorite cookie, I can have less sugar in the recipe and still have the same indulgent impact mentally, physiologically, etc.
Exactly.
What happens if you put the same amount of Incredo sugar in the cookie as you would put normal sugar? Does that actually increase the level of sweetness? Can it go up and get more intense?
So it can. It's not always very noticeable.
Okay.
But it can be more sweeter. So there's a misconception sometimes that Incredo kind of works as a high intensity sweetener, but it's not. So if you put it on your tongue, it will just taste like regular sugar. You won't feel like that. It's much more sweeter. Like for instance, if you put stevia, that is a high intensity sweetener and you put it at really small amounts. We are working on another 2nd generation, which will come out soon. I can't say too much about it, but there we can also have effect of taste improvement. So we can add it to different products, even low sugar products, and really get a better effect, or take bitter chocolate and make it less bitter, like more mild taste.
Right. Okay, great. So understood. It's pretty much a chemistry solution in effect, in essence. There's always challenges, like, so I'm gonna challenge you to say, like, what are some of the challenges with actually getting this into a product and making it work in the same way sensorically, etc., as you would with regular sugar? There's always a give and take in everything, right? So I think that there's always some challenges. So what are some of those with your solution?
So we had our challenges in getting to scale up. That was one of the challenges. We produce our sugar by crystallization, which is how regular sugar is produced. So we can produce in sugar refineries. We don't have to set up our own plant.
Mhm.
The main thing, though, is the reformulation of the product. So sugar reduction is a challenge, and it's a challenge that most food companies are familiar with. Because if you're taking out, sugar has functionality in the process as well. It's not just there as a sweetener. So it helps your cake rise, and it's a bulk ingredient. And then you're cutting off 40, 50%. And instead of this, beautiful cake, you're getting something that's half the height, and, it's not the same, and it's not as moist and more dry. And so the question is, what are you putting instead? And there's an opportunity there as well, because we can use fibers, we can use protein. So there's room for putting, better for you ingredients in there instead. But we still want to get that same functionality. So as you said, if you want to have your, chocolate that you'll have, I don't know, once a day, and that's like your indulgent moment, it's not just the sweetness. You want the texture to be the same. You want the color to be the same. And we have an excellent team of food technologists who are experts exactly in that. What are you bulking instead of the sugar to get the same texture, appearance, taste? And it's not always that easy. Especially, first of all, for the companies and our customers. If they want to bring out to the market a product that's already there and saying, this is the same thing, but reduced. So you already have a standard that you need to reach. It's not a new product that, it can look a bit different or, than what we think. And the second part is also sensory. So one of our biggest challenges was to find a method that, say, I'm producing now, I'm changing the production parameters, I get a sugar out. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it sweet enough? And we started out with just sensory tests. So we have a sensory panel coming in, and also the employees serve as a sensory panel. And there we're putting two samples. We have the full sugar sample, and we have the reduced product with Incredo. And we're just asking the panelists, which one is sweeter?
Right.
But when producing these, you need everything else to be the same. So if you want the panel to focus on one attribute, all other attributes needs to be the same. Has to have, if we're looking at a cookie, the same crunchiness, the same color, texture, the way it kind of breaks in your mouth. And that's just for assessing the sugar, even before we're talking to customers.
Right.
So we put a lot of emphasis on having an analytical method where we can see that the sugar is up to standard. So we do have that. We still have our sensory tests, and we're using FlavorWiki as our platform for it. But that's, I think, the main challenge in sugar reduction.
So are you also doing discrimination on those other sensory parameters to see that you're matching those in addition to having because there's a lot of parameters that must kind of get dialed in to some, you're going to have change no matter what. There's going to be some, whether or not it's detectable and whether or not it matters and impacts liking. And of course, whether or not the manufacturer agrees that they're willing to put that out there in the market. Those are all, I think, probably steps along the way, right?
Yeah, so we're looking at that as well. We did a very massive screen of fibers. As I said before, our main tool for reformulation is using fibers. And I think there's not a fiber on the market that we didn't try. And we kind of mapped everything out and saw, because you can have inulin from two different companies, but then they'll give you kind of slightly different performance. And we really mapped everything out, and that way we can also help our customers and recommend a certain fiber, or if they're working and sourcing from a certain company, we'll say, okay, they have 5 different types of inulin. We saw that this specific type is really good for cakes, and the other one was good for spreads or chocolate. So that's another tool that our technologists have. And it's also for them, if they're getting a cake now, and we've done cakes before, so we can easily say, okay, this is what is going to work. And then the reformulation is much, much more easier. It takes less time. And we already have that kind of expertise built in.
Yeah, obviously the learning and the sort of kind of trade secret that you're developing by just doing so many different trials and so many different formulations becomes a key element of the value as well, because obviously, not every food company is going to be able to deal with a new ingredient. That's one of the biggest problems, I think, in novelty ingredients.
Yeah, definitely. Not all companies have their own R&D, and they could be developing, different products, but mostly like on taste or different flavors, and not really doing the reformulation. Exactly. So we also give that value to our customers, and we can help with reformulation and suggestions.
Yeah. And then if they buy from you, do you set up like a production with a partner plant someplace near their plant, or do you have centralized production that you then have to ship? Like, how do you deal with the supply chain ultimately when you have to produce?
So right now our production is done in Canada with Atlantic Sugar. So we produce there, and then we can ship from there to the US, to Europe. So, it's, as I said, we can produce in different refineries, but this is, big production. So we're doing,
but it's still, it's pretty scalable, right? So if you have different sugar production facilities around the world, you should be able to at least not be more expensive from that perspective.
Yes.
So sugar reduction, I think it's a big topic. You see, I mean, many governments now are getting involved in regulating sugar reduction, and I'm generally not a fan of government intervention in anything personally, but I do think that in the food and climate arena, it's maybe the only meaningful lever that we really have to make sure that we continue to make advancements, not only towards the technology, but just sort of like encouraging consumers on this very gradual pathway to be eating healthier, eating smarter, eating, basically just being kinder to the planet and to themselves. So do you follow that kind of thing? And what are your thoughts on it? Do you think that it will have a meaningful impact in the future, regulation by governments and by health departments?
So I agree there should be regulation, and I think governments should help eat healthier and be more conscious to what we're eating and how we're eating, because we do see, there's big obesity problem. We have about 1 in 10 Americans that have diabetes. All these health issues are eventually getting down, to the health system, and that affects, the care that we get. And so it's kind of rolling down to all these things. And I think that if it can be controlled, or at least try and influence it, or have people think about it, then it is a positive thing. A lot, as you said, a lot of different governments. So there's, the Nutri-Score in Europe and in the US labeling added sugar. In Israel, we have the stickers. So we have red stickers for fat, for salt, and for sugar. And what's interesting, actually, there was a study conducted by Tel Aviv University together with Washington University, and they saw that these stickers actually affect how people buy and consume. So there was a reduction in 25% in sales of products that had the sugar red sticker. So it is doing something. It's not just there for,
Yeah, I think it's got to be a factor of this also in some of the other arenas of innovation in the food industry, because people are very, like, as you say, they want their indulgence, and psychologically, consumers often don't notice very small changes in formulation, and food companies are doing them all the time, usually for cost reasons, actually, but they don't really notice these things over time. But it's, of course, always the food company, if they're left up to them, they're going to maximize profit usually, right? Despite the fact that many of them have initiatives to do this, at the end of the day, if they see consumers rejecting something because of the change, they're not going to do it. So doing these gradual sort of metered shifts in a society, particularly with something as kind of humanly emotional as food, I think it almost has to be a long-term government plan, and the same thing with climate. But all these things need much more teeth, in my opinion, in order for them to really happen. You know?
It's also really changing. You can see, you get certain government, and then the government is replaced, and then someone will, same thing happened in the UK. So, have the HFSS that Boris Johnson brought in, and then a lot of companies, got panicked. We also got a lot of calls from companies wanting to reduce sugar, and now it's being canceled. So, they don't have the incentive anymore, because at the end of the day, sugar reduction costs more. I mean, sugar is a commodity, it's cheap, it's easy to use and bulk up with that. And sugar reduction will always be more expensive than not reducing. So the food companies definitely need some kind of incentive to do it. And
but the cost to society of all of these diseases is far higher over time, right? I mean, that's just
definitely.
It's unfortunately, it's a really very, very difficult things to kind of like unitize and monetize. It's the same thing with climate impact, right? The cost of that is not borne by the people that are causing the damage, right? And the cost of someone, getting lung cancer or having diabetes because they eat too much sugar is borne by the society, more or less, not by them, right? So I think it is a challenge. But nevertheless, so do you see most food companies that you work with looking to launch new versions of products, or actually looking to reformulate? Maybe you can't tell me, but what do you think the larger part of the trend is for sugar reduction? To do something new, to fill build out their product line, or to actually take core products and try to reduce?
I think it changes. It depends on the company. A lot of times they will opt for a new product, just because, until now, sugar reduction did not get such a good name. I mean, you have sugar reduced products on the market. They're usually not that good. And, some of them have aftertaste. Really depends what sweetener they're using, but it doesn't really taste the same.
Right.
And then not every company will take like their leading brand and reduce sugar in that and kind of jeopardize the brand for that. So they will test in new products. Sometimes they will take something that they have and try to reduce there as well.
Right.
And then sometimes it will come as like a second product, second SKU. It won't replace totally, but then you'll have like two versions. We can see that in ketchup, for instance. So Heinz has their regular ketchup, and then they have a reduced sugar and salt. I think they're using sucralose for that. And they have one, I think, with stevia as well.
Yeah. I sometimes like these sugar reduced products a little bit more. I mean, the ketchup you just mentioned, as I've gotten older, the regular ketchup is actually too sweet for me. I don't like to eat it. Coca-Cola is the same thing. I can't really drink Coke straight. I dilute it with water. I still do like it, particularly if I'm doing sports or something. But like the taste is, to me, it still evokes the same type of taste. And I do think that these kinds of dilutions can occur over time. Do you measure the impact of this somehow? Like, do you have a kind of company goals of reducing like calorie percentage in the companies that you're supplying, or like how do you think about the overall impact that you can have with this product on the industry, right? Do you quantify it? Do you do anything like that?
So yes, we do have sustainability goals in our company. We're usually not, by the way, reducing calories, because we're putting in fibers instead of the sugar, and then also, the calorie content is similar. So we're not changing the calories, but we are looking at, if we're reducing sugar, sugar is one of the most produced crops in the world. And we ultimately, our goal, if we're using less sugar, then we can produce less sugar, hopefully globally. With the impact, our impact might be small right now. We're hoping it's going to be big. And in that way, we can have these sustainability goals, and also generally, having people eat healthier and consume less sugar. So that's kind of how we're looking at our impact.
Okay, great. And then what about cooking with the product? Can you buy it like in raw form, and are people going to be able to cook with it at home? I mean, it sounds like some of the challenges maybe that'll be even a totally different type of cooking, right?
Exactly.
Baking, shall we say. Yeah.
So we're a B2B company, so we're only selling to food manufacturers. One of the reasons for that, so I was talking a lot about the increase the solution, but the downside of that is, if you take it and you put it in your coffee, it's just going to dissolve to sugar and silica, and then all the effect is lost.
Right.
So our focus is baked goods, chocolate, confectionery, spreads, things like that. Our product is currently not suitable for, ice creams, yogurt, milk drinks. We are working on something for that pipeline. It's not there yet, but we do have kind of very nice results so far. Because we assume like it is our business model also to be B2B, but if we put it on the market, people will just first thing probably put it in their coffee.
Right.
And then there's the reformulation side. I mean, I know people at home will bake and just, put less sugar, but they say it won't be a difference. But really, if you reduce like 50% sugar, it's going to come out different.
Right. Yeah, well, you might chefs or people that are maybe more skilled in these types of things might be able to adapt to it as well. But I think that just generally letting people know that things like this are out there is important. As you said, I'm American. 1 in 10 people, I think it's more than that, by the way, have diabetes in the United States. And more countries are developing this problem, not just developed countries, but also developing countries are starting to develop the same problem with diabetes. I was recently in Pakistan, and they also talked about it there. Because the prevalence of packaged goods, also all these quick service restaurant products, a lot of them have a lot of sugar in them, right? Like, so it's just not healthy.
We were very surprised, if you kind of take the global sugar market and divide it by markets, the largest market is Asia Pacific. We were sure it's going to be, North America we were really surprised by that. Or at least I was. I mean, it's not, you generally think that most consumption would be, as you said, in the Western world, in, US, Europe, but actually it's in Asia.
And is that via sugary drinks or packaged snacks or what? How is that sugar consumption happening? Because the traditional foods of those regions are not really high in sugar. Right?
Yeah, that's right. It's drinks and it's processed foods. Yeah. I mean, beverages is the number one in this market. And also we were talking to a company in India, and they said, the conception is that sugar is really good for you and it's energy, and give it to kids as much as possible. Yeah. So it's also kind of like cultural conceptions that maybe developed with time, and that got to that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I won't say, but recently in my personal life, someone here in Switzerland suggested to me that you should just let children eat as much sugar as they want because that they metabolize it differently. And I didn't even go into the discussion around this, but it is true that children, I think, perceive sugar very differently. It's more pleasurable to them. I noticed this with my own kid. And but certainly giving them as much as they want wouldn't make no sense.
By the way, that they're the most difficult customer. There's no fooling them. Yeah. If you give them something with stevia, monk fruit, like they notice it. Yeah. They notice it. They don't always like it. Yeah. And they're really, it's our taste buds kind of deteriorate over time. So, our kids have more taste buds than we do. So they perceive, and as we get older, it kind of goes down. Yeah. Have you ever watch a child's face for the first time when they eat ice cream? It's really interesting. Because I think that the mental pleasure they must be going through is extreme, is because it's a new experience, right? But I think this is also why it's even more important to kind of train the younger generations to appreciate different types of food, because you can adapt to any type of food. And one of the biggest problems with changing eating habits on a short time frame is generational. People don't want to change what they eat, particularly people past 40, 45, right? It's just,
it's a comfort, it's a habit, and it's very difficult to break. So I think that the cycles here are much longer, which is why I also believe that you've got to have some sort of regulation in place for it. I mean, it happened in smoking, right? Like no one in America really smokes anymore, except unfortunately some young people now. But the generation I grew up with, we all were told that it was just like the worst thing that you could ever do for yourself. And that has reduced the level of smoking in the United States.
Yeah, definitely. And all the, you can't smoke in restaurants anymore or public places, and that definitely brought things down.
Yeah.
I agree. I think with sugar, it's a force of habit, and people do need to change their habits.
Mhm.
On the other hand, people do want to have, their chocolate or cookies and really have that indulgence. And we do see like taste is the #1 driver eventually for people in what they buy. And we
particularly in this category, right?
Yes.
I mean, why would you kind of go through the effort of consuming a bunch of calories if it wasn't really good, right?
Exactly.
And
then also, during COVID, people just wanted comfort.
Yeah.
So if people, even if they were eating healthier or eating healthier before, really, kind of cut down, and then, COVID came and people were at home and having a hard time and, quarantine and everything. And really all they wanted was a piece of chocolate. So really sugar consumption also kind of rose during COVID, which makes sense.
Yeah. So what about other efforts in the market? I mean, you must have competitors. I mean, I know that there's plenty of other companies. I follow a lot of the publications around, new companies and new startups. It's a topic, sugar reduction. I mean, it's definitely something that's going to be here for a while. So it's a great place to be. But, how do you see the ecosystem developing? Is it just that there are going to be a bunch of competitors, or there are going to be some that are better at some applications than others? How do you see that in real time happening?
So we have, I mentioned before, stevia and monk fruit that are out there. There's allulose now that became like this big trend, which is also keto. And the problem is always going to be, at least how we see it, is taste and aftertaste. It is driving, it's a big thing, and people are looking to reduce, and there are companies coming out with different solutions. It could be a blend of, fibers and one of those high intensity sweeteners, whether it's monk fruit or stevia. Sweet proteins is also something that's coming up. But I think the main issue that everyone has, as we said, is how you reformulate, and then also taste.
Right.
Because until now, I said before that the products on the market, sugar reduced products, were not good enough. And part of our challenge also is to kind of show the consumer that you can reduce sugar but still have a very good and tasty product.
So yeah, you say reformulate and taste, but aren't these more or less the same things? I mean, you're reformulating and you're trying to have the same. I mean, taste can encapsulate texture and mouthfeel and sweetness and flavor. But do you think that, I mean, maybe it's similar to the plant-based industries, is to actually reframe the expectation of the consumer, or do you believe that you truly can reach like on par taste with some of these high indulgent products like milk chocolate and things like that?
So I agree. It's kind of evolved. Like, I mean, they're combined.
Yeah.
There is, different taste that is coming from the product itself. So there are, like stevia, there are different brands and different, so the stevia, if it's more clean, it doesn't have as much aftertaste. Still there, depending how much kind of you're sensitive to it. So there's taste coming from the product itself. And then, as you said, there's the reformulation and getting to that same, texture and indulgent attributes that we like that are not connected to sweetness.
Yeah.
It is a challenge. We do see, I mean, we've done different consumer tests, and our products are a lot of times preferred over the full sugar product. In all its attributes, not just sweetness, like just asking which one do you prefer? And a lot of, usually we had a consumer test that we've done for biscuits, and we had over 60%, I think, that preferred our product. We've done the same for chocolate. It is challenging, but we've been doing this for many years now, and we do have a lot of experience in it.
Yeah.
Of course,
think-
you know, there's always room to go and more to see and do and learn.
Mhm.
But definitely, I think that the most important thing here really is taste.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you say, the reformulation in the food matrix is so complicated. You have all these other different, ingredients interacting, you have cooking. It's really a complex piece of chemistry to make a product, which I think is what makes the food industry very, very challenging. A lot of people don't appreciate it. It's not like making a water bottle or a shoe or something like this. There's so many different factors which are difficult to quantify the kind of the value of and the contribution of. And then on top of that, you have, cost related issues related to supply chain and things like that. So yeah, I think it's complicated, but also that means that over time you can learn more, optimize more. Happy to see that you're very data driven, right? I mean, it's also happy to see that you're, using us for some of those things. And I think that's also kind of the way the future should be, because the more analytical you can be about your product, the better decisions you're going to be able to make. But first you have to collect that information, right? And you have to be able to use it.
Definitely, yeah. Using FlavorWiki really kind of, upped our game.
That's good.
The data collection is really much more easier. The flow is better. And we can also use different tools then to kind of look at the analytics and look at the products that we have and how they were accepted and how they did in sensory panel. And then also use that to look again at, because we're always looking at other things as well, not just sweetness. So we can play, as I said, with fibers. We're looking at the process, at different baking parameters. A lot of different things like that can affect the product.
Yeah.
And we're also looking at those aspects.
Yeah. And it's challenging for the food company that's your customer to really play around with those, I guess, with so much of a sandbox. I mean, we deal with a lot of these same companies, and all of their production capacity is focused on producing, right? And they might have a pilot plant, but it's limited capacity. And I think it's just very difficult for these large companies that are already at manufacturing scale to really be agile and change, and make significant changes to the way they approach their product. I think it's a challenge throughout the industry because, it's a low margin, high volume business, and they just have to be producing and selling all the time. And so then to completely make a new product is a big challenge for them, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen it. I mean, it's something that we thought about initially, and then we're getting, we're talking to tier 1 companies and they're asking our help for reformulation.
Yeah, which is kind of shocking, given you think that they would have the most money and the most capability, but it's really just because, I mean, it's a running, functioning business, and it's the DNA of those two organizations is so different.
Exactly. And, they'll have, we were trying, as I said, we tried over 40 different fibers. Mm-hmm. And I have the ability to make a batch of cookies at, half a kilo. Their minimum could be, 5-6 kilos. So they won't go and make, times 40 and test all of these fibers. And this is something that, we can do here in 2 weeks. So we do have, the advantage of that. Mm-hmm. And also they are mostly production focused, as you said. Yeah. And also when we go to these companies, we have the advantage of being able to kind of play in our lab before we go there. Because if we go for a trial plant and they want to try Incredo, pilot plant, we have one chance. Yeah. Or we're going to make, maybe 3 batches, but no more than that. Mm-hmm. So we do all our tests in-house and then come really ready for these workshops to really show the ability of Incredo.
Yeah, that's great. And then what about the consumer perception? Like, what do, on the package, do consumers see that it's made with a different type of sugar? Do you have to declare that it's that it's like this? I mean, you said it's all FDA approved and it's approved by all, food systems around the world. But, when you ask a consumer, hey, this product is made with this type of new ingredient and it's regular sugar, this is how it works. Are you seeing that this is impacting their liking of it? Do they have concerns? So like, what about communication towards the consumer about a product like this? Have you explored that? Do you see any challenges, benefits? Maybe it doesn't matter to them?
So we are looking at that a lot. We do want to send a message that products with Incredo you can expect great taste.
Mhm.
We have done, first of all, regards of labeling, you won't see, it's labeled as sugar.
Okay.
So you won't see anything different. We are opting with our customers to get kind of on front of package or in the back, kind of, Incredo inside, similar to Intel inside, and going for that way so the consumer can see that we do have Incredo. We've done, I think it was 2 years ago, we launched 2 spreads in the US direct to consumer as kind of a POC to show consumers that, we had spreads, we had 2 different spreads. One was chocolate hazelnut and the other was dark chocolate with caramel. And they were 50% less sugar than different chocolate spreads on the market. And we wanted to show the consumer that, having Incredo can really bring great taste and a really good product. And that they will know to kind of look for that later. So it is something that we are focusing on. It, of course, depends on the companies we're working with. We do have, we're selling to Blommer in the US, which is the #1 B2B chocolate manufacturer in the US. So we do sell to them, but then they sell to, Hershey's, Mars. So we probably won't get labeling for that because, it's already going like to a second party. But we do, communicate our deals and get them out there, and hopefully, people that are looking at that and kind of looking for other healthy options do get to know the Incredo name, and hopefully will be more and more.
Yeah, I think that's an important marketing aspect of that, is like people trust that, oh yes, when it's got this, ingredient in it, and when it still is sugar, the product is still good. The product tastes, it might not be exact, but it tastes good. One of the things that I've noticed with all the work that we've done with consumers is how consumers are really hesitant to buy a new product because they don't know what it's going to be like. And as a consumer, I guess I'm fortunate. I don't think about this too much. I mean, if I see something that seems interesting, I will buy it and try it. I don't see things that seem that interesting to me that often because, a lot of them just don't, it's clear that they don't fit the kind of products that I want to consume. But I think that we see tons of consumers who actually use FlavorWiki as our testers because they're very interested in being able to try new products and not having to take the financial risk to do that because we give them the reward of the product in return. So I think that being able to sort of substantiate a claim that people can trust about taste and about what the product is like is really meaningful for sales, frankly. I think it's very meaningful. Because otherwise people just say, no, I'm not, it's reduced sugar, I'm not going to buy it, right? Or it's this, I'm not going to buy it. Those are always bad. So yeah, I think that protecting that brand and making sure that when it is there, that it fulfills the promise, which of course doesn't totally depend on you. It's also the way the food company ends up using the product. That's important because I think that causes the consumer to take that first purchase leap, which we see tons of hesitation towards. I was surprised because most food products are a couple of dollars, right? But yeah, people think about that. They say, oh, I'm going to buy it, then it's going to sit, it's going to go to waste, my kid's not going to eat it, kind of thing. So that's I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I always like to try new things, and especially in our office, someone's traveling somewhere, he'll get like different sweet things, other things. It's really interesting to get and try. It's interesting that the consumers have that first leap. We always also think about the second buy. So if they buy for the first time, and they have to really like it to go and buy it again. That's really going to drive it.
Yeah, that's where aligning the expectation with the actual experience becomes very important, right? And I think a lot of these big food companies, they have silos of marketing, sales, and product. And actually marketing the product is easier than building a product that fulfills the claim, right? I think that's it's easier with money and promotion to get people to take the first leap. Promotion, discount, encouragement, claim, promises. but then when those promises don't fulfill, it actually can be more damaging. So I think that's a really important component of the whole product delivery, which is something I've also been shocked to see how many brands out there don't do this well, right? Like there's a disconnect between, you know, the promise of what it is and what it actually delivers.
Yeah, you're promising, you know, putting all these claims and it's reduced sugar and great taste and no aftertaste, and then someone buys the product, and if it's not good enough, he'll just not go and buy it again.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, he won't trust that brand again.
Yeah, and they feel even cheated because they spent money on it, right?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and you know, again, it's just a couple of dollars, but I mean, for people that are, you know, food is expensive, and it's even more expensive now than it was 2 or 3 years ago. It's a big part of each household, and so I think people are really, you know, they're picky about these points. That's for sure, right? Which is why it's hard to get them to change.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Naama, this has been great. Anything else you want to share? Otherwise, you know, I think it's a super interesting product. I think it's definitely a great and successful journey that you've all been on so far. Again, I see a lot of food startups in the industry, talk to a lot of founders and people that are working on things. I think from the beginning, you know, it seems like you've been analytical about what you're doing, and then, you know, trying to find the right solution for what you're doing and find that product market fit is definitely commendable. There's tons of entrepreneurs out there just making something and hoping that it works. And I think that it's definitely a longer term game than that. So it sounds great.
Thank you for having me. It was great and interesting.
Well, great. Well, I hope to see you again sometime soon. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to Israel in November for the event, but I think I definitely will try to get there as soon as I can, if not in November.
Yeah, I hope you do. We're going to be there.
Yeah, I trust you will be. It's getting bigger now. I think that you know, it seems like there's more and more things going on there, more organization, more coordination between companies and VCs, and it's great to see.
Yeah, it's getting bigger. We're going to be in charge of, so all the desserts are going to have Incredo inside. So we're really excited about it.
All right, well, then I might have to come. Yeah, even if it's just for a couple of days. But yeah, I expect good weather. The last time I don't know if I lucked out last night. It was fantastic. It was like it's like compared to Zurich in early November, it was a fantastic place.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.